Yogeshwaram Ramakrishnam Sharadam Mahatrarupinim Vivekanandamacharyam Natva Vakshami Shuddhe Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Cha Bhaishajena Yopa Karottam Pravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjaliranatosmi. Last class there was some issue with this audio, so we will recapitulate what we discussed in our last class. We saw that this anusthana of yama and yamas is vital to gain any benefit or to make any progress in this path of yoga. This anusthana may not directly be related to samadhi and all that, but it prepares us, it makes us adhikari, eligible to undertake the further practices. It doesn't mean that we have to first be completely established in these yama niyamas or fully master these and then only we can take up next steps. It's not that. But there should be a sincere attempt to practice these yama niyamas, and then we can simultaneously start practice of or anusthana of next yogangas. But the result or the progress will depend on our practice and adherence and anusthana of these yamas and niyamas. Ashuddhikshaya is what all these yogangas do. Ashuddhikshaya jnanadiptehe. And these yama niyamas, they take care of the grosser dirt of the chitta. That's what we discussed. And any branch of philosophy or spiritual tradition, thought, whatever you call it, if they don't lay enough emphasis on practice of yamas and niyamas, we have to be wary about them. We should be careful about them. Because these yamas and hurt the practitioner. If one is not seriously trying to adhere to yamas and niyamas, is a bit of careless about them and takes up the next yogangas, it could land, that person could land in trouble. Because these are the ones which make us fit to practice those things. So that we should always remember. The yamas come first, they are kind of restraints. And we had listed those. Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha, Aparigraha, Yama. 5 disciplines have been listed there. The first one is Ahimsa, generally translated as non-violence. And the commentator explains it as anabhidroha, that is non-hurting, not hurting others, is ahimsa. If you look only at this one word, then we are all ahimsakas, most of us. We don't go and hurt people physically. So Vyasabhashya gives adjectives to clarify this concept of ahimsa. So he says sarvatha, sarvada, sarvabhuteshu anabhidroha. Sarvatha means in all ways. Now see, in all ways means we don't go and physically hurt someone. But what about our speech? Through speech, sometimes we hurt people. We say words which hurt people. Mentally they hurt people. Or sometimes we think ill of others. Or we get angry at others. All these are various forms of himsa according to this definition. Sarvatha, in all ways, that is kaya, vacha, manasa. Body, speech, mind, in every way we have to avoid every kind of himsa. through body also, we may not go and hurt someone bodily. But if we behave with our body in such a way that it hurts other person, we throw things, we look angrily, we look in a certain way, we scare people. Now that is himsa. So whether it is with my body, mind or speech, or when it comes to the recipient, whether I am hurting that person bodily or mentally, all of that has to be avoided if we wish to be non-violent persons, if we wish to undertake this anusthana of ahimsa. It's also called vrata. So if we want to undertake this ahimsa vrata, all these we have to take care. With our body, mind, speech, we don't hurt others. And with our body or with our bodily actions, the other person is not also hurt physically or mentally. So all these things are included in this concept of ahimsa. So that is only one part, that is sarvatha. Then comes the second part called sarvada, that is at all times. That's quite interesting because we may be following ahimsa in all its aspects most of the times. But we have certain areas. When people step into those, then we flare up. Some kind of raw nerve. Everyone has these raw nerves. If that is rubbed against, then we react. That's why he says sarvada, at all times. When my ego is hurt, then I'm a different person. Till then, I'm very non-violent person. In all ways, sarvata. But not always. When my ego is hurt, I react. So that he, Vyasa covers by saying that sarvada. And then he says sarva bhuteshu, towards all beings. This is also quite interesting. Sometimes it so happens that amongst all our acquaintances, or sometimes even without knowing a person, looking at that person, somehow we feel some kind of irritation. Some kind of enmity. So sarva bhuteshu also comes there. That is not following ahimsa completely. Some people have that. They bring out the worst in us. When we are dealing with other people, we are fine. But there are certain people, when we interact with them, the worst in us comes out. So he says, no, sarva bhuteshu, towards all beings. Whether he is a friend or enemy, towards all beings. Ahimsa is to be practiced. So sarvatha, in all ways, at all times or in all situations, towards all beings. They also include animals. Towards all of them. That anabhidroha, non-hurting, that is ahimsa. This is the complete definition of ahimsa. And of course, there are sub-commentators and all that. They are aware of the limitation that we have in practicing ahimsa. Most common is our very life depends on himsa. Life depends on life. Jivo jivasya jivanam. When we drink water, when we breathe, we are committing himsa. So the later commentators, they have said that this himsa that happens during or while living, essential conducting our activities like drinking and eating and breathing, that himsa is excluded from this. That doesn't count as himsa. So whatever microbes we kill while breathing and drinking water, that is not to be taken as himsa. That is, the later commentators have clarified. This concept of himsa and ahimsa is very complex, and the next sutra, there will be further clarification of how we can follow it, how much we can follow it, And if we had to follow it completely, what we have to do? Uh, the later commentators have given their opinions on this. We'll see in that when we come to the next sutra. But this is what the Vyasa has given description about ahimsa. And second point that Vyasa makes is that this ahimsa is very important. See, Patanjali begins the sutra with the word ahimsa. So that is the first of the yamas. Patanjali himself has given importance, and Vyasa elaborates on that, saying that all other yamas are tanmulaha. They are rooted in ahimsa, meant to purify and strengthen this vrata of ahimsa. So that is the importance given to this discipline or vrata of ahimsa. All other yamas are meant to strengthen this ahimsa. So that was about ahimsa. The next is in the list is satya, that is truth. And Vyasa defines it as yatharthe vang manase, where our vang and manas, where our speech and mind, they align with the truth, then it is called, then we can be said to be following truth, following this vrata of truth. Our mind and our speech should be aligned with facts. Aligning of the mind and speech with facts, that is the practice or anusthana, adherence to truth. Aligning mind with facts is like this, ascertaining the facts before we accept and believe. Say we hear something, many times it happens. We hear some sensational rumor or news, or someone flatters us, someone says something about us, which is very good about us. The mind, without ascertaining the truth of it, latches onto it, takes it as truth. Then either we feel pride, we feel proud about ourselves, or whatever, if it's a sensational rumor about a third person, we believe it and start spreading it. Now, this is not being truthful in mind. We have to develop this habit of ascertaining the truth of what we hear, what we read, even what we read nowadays. I'm not talking of what we read from the scriptures, but what we read in other literature, other material that we read. That is the truthfulness of the mind, ascertaining the facts of what we learn, not just believing it. And as I said, especially if it's something sensational, immediately we believe. If it is something good about ourselves, immediately we believe. No, that is not following the vrata of satya. When it comes to manasa satya, truthfulness of the mind. Truthfulness of the mind is when we ascertain the truth and then accept it. So also, when someone in good faith points out our defects, or we discover our defects, the mind goes into a denial mode. When someone says something about ourselves, a friend, a well-wisher, trying to correct ourselves, the mind goes into a denial mode. We don't want to even ascertain what that person is saying. Or if we discover some shortcomings within us, mind goes into a denial mode. That's also not manasa satya, mental truth. We should investigate, we should look into it. And if what that person is saying is true, what we have discovered about ourselves is true, we should accept it. A spiritual aspirant should not be afraid of the truth, however bitter it is, about ourselves. So that is truth of the mind, mental truth, manasa satya. We accept only what is true, and we accept everything that is true. If it is bitter, still, if it is true, we accept it and correct ourselves. And even if it is, so to say, sweet, but doesn't stand the test of truth, then it has to be rejected. So that is the Manasa Satya. It's very important that we develop this attitude of ascertaining what we hear, what we listen and all that, what we read. That is Manasa Satya. And then Vang, that is verbal truth. That comes when we are communicating with others. So we have some knowledge that we want to transfer to the other through our speech, through Vak. Now, Vyasa says that this transference should be faithful, flawless transference of what the speaker knows to the hearer. Flawless transference. If the speaker speaks something totally different than what he or she knows, it's a blatant lie. That's a different. But sometimes the speaker says things that are true verbally, but not factually. Misleading truth, misleading people. What he or she is saying, what the speaker is saying is true, maybe verbally, in words, literally, but not in spirit, not in reality. The famous example from Mahabharata is quoted. Ashwathama Hatha. It's a truth. An elephant by name Ashwathana is killed. But what was in the mind of the speaker? The truth that speaker knew was something different. And what the hearer understood was something different. Ashwathama Hatha was correct. An elephant was killed. That was the truth. And the speaker had that in his mind. But the hearer got an entirely different impression. And that was not clarified. So the transference of knowledge was not flawless. It was misleading. So it is not true. It is not truth. It is not following the truth. This is what the later commentators, they have given this example. The sub-commentators and all that. So there is this kind of misleading statements. They are not truth. And also there are certain other way of not following truth. Is using words that the hearer doesn't understand at all. Either speaking in a language that the hearer doesn't understand, or using such words, very difficult words, which make no sense to the hearer. But the knowledge has not been flawlessly transferred. I use such words, maybe the language hearer understands, but those words are very difficult. And then the hearer has not got any clue of what the person is saying. So that becomes untruth. So this faithful, flawless transmission of knowledge from speaker to the hearer is Vachika Satya, is the truth of the speech. About the speech, there are other aspects. Speaking truth, as mentioned now, we ascertain what is truth, and then we say it straightforward, simple way. The hearer understands what we want to say, exactly as we want to say, exactly as we know. That is one aspect. At the same time, it should be for the good of the people. If it is not going to do good to people, there is no point in telling it. If it is going to hurt people, then it loses its quality as being truth. What we say, it has to be true. At the same time, it should not hurt others. If it hurts others, if it brings calamity on others, then it loses the quality of being truth. It is better to be silent in such matters. There are examples given in our scriptures how truthfulness brought calamity, and then it no more remains the truth. So some people have this habit of saying that I am a straightforward person. I speak the truth. And in the process, they say things which hurt people. Sometimes it is not even necessary to say those words. But they try to camouflage it as a virtue. Punya bhasa, that is the word Vyasa uses. Maybe these things were there even in those times. So he uses these words, punya bhasa. It appears as if it's a virtue. I am speaking the truth. Frankly, I am speaking. But was it necessary? We don't know. We don't think about that. It has hurt the other person. And unnecessarily it has hurt the other person. It is true, no doubt, whatever I have said is true. But it was not necessary to say that. And it has hurt the other person. So it loses the quality of being true. If at all it has to be told, it has to be told in a way that it doesn't hurt others. Yes, there are times when we have to say things which are true, and we know those are going to hurt others. But we should make every attempt to kind of take the edge of that hurt. So it has to be told in a way that it hurts least, if at all it is necessary. If it is not necessary, there is no need to talk. And last, it's just to please others. We should not. Pleasing others is not the criteria, or not the end, or not the goal or end of speaking truth. We should not hurt others. But pleasing others is definitely not the goal. So if we say something which is not true, but it will please others, but it's called flattery, it is no truth at all. It is meant to please others. Though it doesn't hurt that person, it pleases that person. But just because it pleases that person, if the content is not true, then also it is not true. So flattery comes in that category. So all these things are there in this matter of truth. Truth of the mind, truth of the speech. Both are necessary. And they say that, again it is the later commentators, we want to practice speaking truth. First, we should check our speech. Check in the sense we should control our speech, especially when we are talking of the verbal truth or vak satya. We want to practice that. First rule is talk less or don't talk at all. Talk only when necessary. That will avoid lot of things. Even verbal himsa that we engage because of continuous talking, whatever comes to our mind, that also is avoided. So this control of the speech, talk only when necessary, only as much is necessary. That's a great help in practicing this satya. And of course, as I said, we should ascertain the truth of what we are hearing, and if it is true, we should accept it. And we should say things which are true in a way that other person understands without hurting that person. So that is about the truth. So these are the two very important concepts, ahimsa and satya. The next is asteya, that is generally translated as non-stealing. We'll see it in our next class. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.